Hi folks, I'm here with you at the UCSC Farm and Garden in one of our orchard blocks. This is the block we refer to as the pedestrian apples. It's got apples, about 80 or 90 trees, about 13 varieties. It was just something put in 15 or 20 years ago, a look-see at varieties. What might be A, grower-friendly varieties, and B, good-tasting, marketable varieties. By and large, it's up and running at full production, but here and there are glitches. One thing I'd like to explain, a full disclaimer as it were, is, hey, look at the orchard floor. We've got a lot of weeds. Here we are coming out of the pandemic. It's June of 2021. We've had virtually no learners or workers at the farm and garden for the last 15-18 months. So the quote-unquote deplorable state of the orchard floor is, reasonable. We're going to get after it shortly as we open up here. So that's my disclaimer. Glitches. Let's go a little more on glitches here. One, this looks like a really good year for apples here in the central coast of California. We had a cold winter, inducing chill, inducing big bloom in the spring. And while it's terrible statewide, we are in a drought. And so that meant there was very little rain during the bloom period, which facilitated bees, pollen, fruit set, and a good crop. In fact, in some instances, the crop set is so heavy we have to get in and thin. We'll get after that in a little while with this video here. But here and there, other glitches. Here and there, sometimes a tree or two just flat out will not grow. It's not biologically compromised, it's just not growing. So you look at, what are all the components of care? How am I doing with watering? How am I doing with fertility? And on like that. And you pay a little more attention to that tree or those set of trees. And sometimes they respond. It was on you. But sometimes, for no reason, they don't respond. Now, the assumption here is you're working with a tree that is not diseased or biologically compromised. It's just not growing. No say why, but it's not. So a viable remedy I've found over the years is an extreme act, and that is to cut the tree back quite a bit. This is employing what are called renewal cuts, where you take all of the branches on the tree that are maybe 5-6 feet long, and you cut them back to a short stub. We did this earlier in the late winter. And your hope is to get a pretty vigorous growth response. So here we are, we did that in March. Here we are in June, and this is a variety of apple called Oval Fuji. I sometimes jokingly say that's Oval, A-U-V-I-L, not awful. In fact, au contraire, it is a really good, sweet Fuji. Well, aren't they all? But what's remarkable about it is spectacularly early. Most Fuji I don't even look at for ripeness. That's true good hang time tree ripe until sometime between Thanksgiving and Halloween and Thanksgiving, this one comes on and is dead ripe in September, often early September. It was a mutation, was found in Washington State by a fellow named Grady Oval, hence the name, the Oval Fuji, and he's akin to the James Brown, the godfather of soul of Washington apples. Whatever happened in the last 80-90 years in Washington apples, he was the precipitator of the leader of a very progressive fella like that. This apple is great, and it's really good for people with short season areas that can't mature a true Fuji. And yet this Oval Fuji name didn't catch on as a brand, so they've rebranded it as September Wonder. Oval Fuji, September Wonder, take your pick. But let's look at this tree now. It was cut back, it was stubbed. And what has been the growth response? It's been pretty good in both number of shoots, as you see around the tree, and pretty good in terms of, again, early season, 1.5 feet or so of extension growth on these multiple shoots. So there can be too much of a good thing. What I am going to do here now is I'm going to thin out quite a number of shoots. And the principle here is we want more growth through fewer outlets, an outlet being a branch, to regrow the tree. And let's look at this one here. We've got maybe 15, 18 inches of growth, and that's good. But what I'd really like is 3 or 4 feet, maybe even 3 or 4 feet more this year. The quicker we grow the tree back, the sooner we'll be back and cropping again. So what is my aim here? You can see I have tagged with tape the branches that I intend to keep. And I have chosen to run this tree as a nice open center, sun cup, not a central leader. So the first thing I'm going to do, even though these branches here have some redeeming qualities, I'm going to thin them out. Now, let me just say, in some cases I won't actually thin them. I'll just cut them to a short stub, maybe 1 inch or 1 bud. And the hope here is they will become what I call a fruit hanger. The response will be that it'll just issue a flower and hang a fruit. It's a good thing. So I'm going to get rid of some of these unwanted branches. So now I'm moving towards a nice cup, open center. Let's just take a quick survey. There's about 9 or 10, maybe 11 branches I've chosen to keep. Now in the end, I'll probably only keep maybe 5, 6, 7. But I'm going to start with more possibilities, keep my options open as it were, see which ones grow the best, and then make a second set of thinning cuts either later this season or in the winter. So let's go around the tree and look. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2 of the pretty tight, 6 and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Again, let's stipulate this is too many, too close together, but good enough for now. So I'm just going to move in and try to clean it up a little to get visual clarity. So again, I'll engage in some thinning and stubbing, and let's see what if the picture, as it were, can come into a little clearer resolution. Then I'll make maybe some secondary choices. And I can see I don't like this branch. It's too flat. And I like this and this and this better. So we're okay again with a reduced number of branches, hopefully growing up and out and getting some extension growth. Let's look a little more closely at some of the pros and cons of some of the choices I have made. And that would be, let's look in this quadrant here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 choices. Okay, this tree is going to grow, it's going to get big even though it's dwarf, and it'll have branches about this diameter. That's way too many branches that would have too many laterals that would shade one another. But like I said, I'm keeping my options open. But listen, this is a very preferred branch, 1 because of its placement, and 2 because of its length. Growing up and out like that. This one is good because of its spacing, but it's a little flat. Flat growth is weak. What we want here is vigor. This one is right over that one, but it has good vigor. So I'm going to make an adjustive cut right now and say, nope. And then I'll train these 2 like this. And so I can use the space appropriately. So if I got 1, 2, this probably can be excused. Thank you. And here I have 2, and the notion comes up I could thin one, or I could, again, keep the 2 and train them. So I'm going to eliminate this, and I have one here that I meant to eliminate, and then I will drive a stake, tie a string, and separate these like this. So I like what I see. I'm okay over here. There you go.